Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the New York Rangers, the fact that their season may be over, what's going wrong in this series against the Florida Panthers, and maybe some things that they could fix. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yesterday night we saw Game 5 between the Panthers and the Rangers, and you'd go on to see Florida win that game, as it is now a 3-2 series with Florida leading, meaning the Panthers are one win away from punching their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final. Meanwhile, the Rangers are one loss away from seeing their best season in franchise history end in disappointment, of course, hoping to win a championship, but maybe not the case. So what exactly has gone wrong in this series? One thing that doesn't totally translate, but it does seem to in recent games, is Florida's ability to respond. You're looking at all these games and you see Florida, even if they are down or not out, as they usually are able to get the equalizer and don't really allow the Rangers to build a multi-goal lead. In fact, the only time that they've had a multi-goal lead in this series was Game 5 when they won that Game 5-4 in the second period. And you just know Paul Maurice's guys, despite them only winning 2 of their past 4 games, could be there. You know that there's going to be a lot of shots. You know that they could go out there and just put a lot of pressure on you, and you know the equalizer is probably coming. The question then becomes, are you going to be able to regain the lead, or are you going to see the Panthers go out there and take advantage of you and score the goal to go ahead? Also, adding to this, if you're looking at things besides just Florida applying pressure, is New York's inability to score right now. If you exclude Game 3, which of course they won with 5 goals, they've scored 6 goals in the other 4 games, with Game 1 being a 3-0 shutout, which was a loss on home ice. So that is a concern. And when you see the fact that they are 1 for 14 on the man advantage in the series so far, on 27 shots, you realize that Sergei Bobrovsky has a .962 save percentage when he is facing the Rangers. The power play that is supposed to be really good, that we saw in the regular season, that could be dangerous, that we saw in the playoffs, it could be dangerous. Right now, that is not the case. And for a Rangers team that is getting beat, even strength, that is getting dominated 5-on-5 at times in this series, especially with certain players, which we'll talk about later in this video, it is a huge problem, because Florida can, again, apply the pressure and know at the moment that when they have guys in the box, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be losing or getting a multi-goal lead built upon that. Their concern as well is the fact that some of the New York stars are not performing at the moment at all. Chris Kreider, a man that ended up winning this series almost single-handedly, I guess if you want to say, in Game 6 with that hat trick, in the third period I think it was, where he scored all 3 of those goals, has just 1 point in this series so far, and his numbers do not look good at all when you're looking at things like 5-on-5 in this series. Is when he's been out there, they've been outshot 43-14, and I, again, am looking at this and seeing a name where you'd expect something, but instead, with the team not thriving on the power play, you're kind of wondering what you're going to get at him at 5-on-5. It's not just him either. Mika Zibanejad has not had a good series too, especially looking at 5-on-5, as he has an expected goals for percentage of 24%, meaning that the Panthers are getting more of an offensive opportunity when he is out there, which is not a good thing. And he's been outshot 55-17 when he's been out there on the ice. So 2 big name players that are not getting a lot of offensive production, but are seeing a lot of chances against them when they are out there on the ice. Going to be a huge issue. And then parts of their blue line are struggling as well in this series. Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba are having really bad high danger chance numbers at 5-on-5 strength, and that is a big concern, knowing that you have a team in Florida that, like we've talked about, has the ability to put up 35-40 shots in a game and maybe see themselves score 4 or 5 goals in this series. Jacob Trouba leads the Rangers so far too, with 5 penalties, and I know we've talked about Trouba before on this channel, even during this playoffs. He's a player that certainly is not capable of making the right decisions all the time, and you're hoping that at this point he doesn't take a lot of penalties, because if he's going to be allowing a lot of chances defensively and struggling in that capacity, what is he going to be really doing for you if he's taking penalties again too? Just kind of one of those things that is not a good situation, which is compiled with him possibly making you go on the PK. But the good news for the Rangers is they have Igor Shesterkin, and he has had 3 games where he's faced 35 shots or more and has a .928 save percentage for the series, I believe. That's what I looked at yesterday on naturalstattrick.com, as long as it was updated, which I think it was. If that's the case, clearly you can see that he is helping carry this team. Now, he did have 1 bad game in terms of save percentage, but with a lot of the shots that he's been facing, you understand that the Panthers, in all likelihood, in a lot of these games deserve to win them. However, Igor is going out there, and again, as a former Vezina goalie, doing his best to try to keep his team in this. Now, credit to the Rangers so far, though, as 3 of these games have been able to go to overtime, and you know that the Rangers have the capability to win in OT, But with this, you're saying, at what point do we see Igor maybe have a bad game and the Rangers aren't there to score goals like we've seen in games 1 and then games, 3 through 5? So what exactly can they do to fix this? I think that you're just kind of hoping on a few things going well. You would imagine that Sergei Bobrovsky's save percentage on the PK would dip a little bit. At least you're hoping for it. And there's been games where the Rangers have been able to get a lot of shots on the man advantage. So at some point you're thinking that in Game 6, maybe you get a lucky bounce and you do score on the man advantage, and that kind of helps things for you offensively. And you're just hoping that more stars are able to go out there and perform. It's not just, Zibanejad and Kreider. Some other players as well have had kind of a quiet series in terms of points, and you know that you're hoping that this can eventually be a funky breakout of. Maybe Chris Kreider does have a big game in Game 6 where he says, instead of putting the team on my back and winning the series, we go out there and keep the series alive. I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to be him, but there is that potential. And I guess we'll see in this time, as you're hoping maybe somebody like Jacob Trouba doesn't have a game where he takes bad penalties. But for the Rangers, do I think this series is over? No. Again, they only need to win 2 more games. I know Florida needs to win 1, and I said Florida in 7, which is still what I'm thinking. But New York has had the ability to have a really good year. They've been able to go on a deep run before. And there is a potential, again, let's say Igor goes off and has a shutout in Game 6. That could happen. Now, their odds sit at 24% right now, and that is low. But we see this team that won the President's Trophy surely should be capable of winning 2 games in a row against another high-quality team if they want to go on and win the Stanley Cup. If they don't, it's still been an incredible year. But we do have to understand that their backs are up against the wall for the Rangers, and time is running out as the final 60 minutes of their season could be approaching here in, a day and a half. But in the meantime, we'll have to wait, and knowing the Rangers, they're probably going to win Game 6 with a shorthanded goal with the way they've been able to score shorthanded in the playoffs. But yeah, if they do lose, it is to a 2-time Stanley Cup finalist team. There are worse ways to go. We'll see how this all plays out. What are your thoughts on the New York Rangers? Do you think that Game 6 is going to be the final game for them? Do you think they go to Game 7 and lose? Do you think they go to Game 7 and win? Who exactly is going to be heading to the Stanley Cup final, and who's going to be winning it? Let me know your thoughts on all that down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and you go with hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.